Hey guys, this is my deck spotlight series where I take a look at a deck that was sent in by a viewer and I just critique it, give my opinions on it, just talk about it a little bit. Today we're taking a look at Sebastian Barragan's Ojama deck. Obviously Ojamas can be played in a few different ways. He's kind of focusing on lockdown and I'm going to talk about kind of how he's doing it and what he can do to maybe improve it and work on it. So to start things off, he's running two of each of the Ojamas. I feel like in an Ojama focused deck, you might want to consider running more of them because of your ability to swarm and use them for certain things. It depends on how you're going about the deck. Because you're focusing on lockdown more than Ojama swarming, it might play a little differently for you, but I still feel like you're running a little low on monsters, and your searching is kind of limited, so I feel like that can really hold you back. If you load into a lot of spells or traps early on, I feel like you're going to be in a lot of trouble with this deck because of your low monster count. And then you're running 3 Ojama Blue, which is your main searcher, so definitely nice to have 3 of this in the deck. And then 2 Ojama Red. Again, I'd consider more of this because this card makes really good plays for you. It obviously swarms the field like crazy and lets you do a lot of big stuff, so it becomes really powerful in this deck type. And then the spells, a lot of typical spell support. Book of Moon, Dark Hole, 3 Ground Collapse because he's focusing on the lockdown component. Ground Collapse is being run at 3. I might consider it at 2. It depends on your monster count, depends on your other spells and traps. But obviously, because he's focusing on the lockdown, he's going heavy into it. 2 MST, 3 Ojama Country. In most Ojama decks, you should probably run 3 Ojama Country because it's the main component to the deck. He's running 1 Ojama Delta Hurricane. I feel like it makes sense that he's running less of this because he's focusing more on lockdown than like OTK Ojamas. But still, you might want to consider it at 2. It depends on your monster count, depends on how you're getting the Ojamas out. But still, that card will lead you to win. So you really got to think about what you can do with it. And kind of in the same vein, he's running 1 Ojamagic. Again, it depends on how you're running things, how you're swarming. Again, if he was running more of the Ojamas, he might want to consider running more Ojamagic because you can easily make plays off this, especially when you combine it with some other cards. He's running 2 Poly. He's focusing on the Ojama fusions because he wants to lock down. Not really a thing I focus too heavily on when I run Ojamas, but again, because he's lockdown focused, because he's trying to bring out those fusions to combo with Ground Collapse, it makes more sense for him. 1 Raigeki, 2 Big March of Animals. I do like this card in Ojamas. It doesn't work very well in a lot of decks, but in Ojamas, where you can swarm out the Ojamas so much, this can give you, additional 800 attack, per monster or 1,000. It can really lead to big damage in OTKs with this deck, but I feel like, again, it fits more with swarming Ojamas, which would require more monsters to be consistent. And then for his back row, he's running 2 Graceful Revival. I guess I don't really understand this card in this deck. It's just limiting his ability to summon from the graveyard. He can run Call the Haunted or Limit Reverse, and he'll be able to special summon his fusions from the graveyard. So I feel like, I guess I don't really see the point of this card specifically in this deck type. 2 Mirror Force, debatable Mirror Force versus Deep Prison, whatever you want to run. 2 Ojama Trio, staple in Ojama deck, especially one that focuses on lockdown, makes a lot of sense. Solemn Warning, Torrential Tribute, again, OTK lockdown, why not? And 2 Wiretap, helping him deal with things. For his extra deck, not a lot of things that you can actually run in Ojamas. He's focusing on lockdown, so he's running 2 of each of the fusion, which makes sense with what he's trying to do. Then 2 Daigusto Phoenix, 3 Gachi, very powerful in Ojamas, 2 Herald, 3 Ronin Raccoon, and 1 Dark Mist. I'd say Ronin Raccoon is staple at 3, Gachi usually staple at 2 or 3. Herald, you might be able to run, less, you might not really need him. Dark Mist, you want to have 1. You can definitely run 2, but again, it depends on how many Ojamas you're running. You could easily build this out with Ojama Red, so it depends on what you're trying to do. But not much to say about the extra deck. He's really putting in most of the things that he can run, but there are a few other options that he can consider. So I do like what he's trying to do here. I feel like there might be some consistency issues. He might want to consider running more monsters, things that make it consistent, allow him to make more plays. I feel like he's going to be limited without his combinations. So there are some things I do want to throw in there that you might want to consider. It depends on what you're going for, but there are some ideas that I think could be very nice for an Ojama deck type. Tour Guide can lead you into powerful things to bring things back or get out something that has balanced stats, which will work out really well with Ojamas. I feel like Instant Fusion is a really good card with this deck because you'll be able to put an Ojama in the graveyard and then easily summon it with Ojama Country. So I think you should consider something like Instant Fusion. Soul Charge, again, a graveyard thing that can really help you a lot better than, Graceful Revival. Call the Haunted, obviously much better than Graceful Revival, so I would consider that. Magical Hats is a really cool thing if you're running like multiple Ojamagic. You can easily swarm the field like crazy by having Ojamagic destroyed, so that's kind of a nice combination play you can make there. And I think you should really consider So Cute Boss. Obviously, you're not running Ghost Tricks, but you are trying to lock down their field. So if you can get out So Cute Boss and limit one of their field positions, you can combo that, start locking down their field like crazy. So I would definitely consider at least one of this card in your deck type. So yeah, overall, there's not too much I really want to say. I'm not as familiar with Ojamas, and I probably won't build one for a while. When I do build Ojamas again, I might have another look at what this deck type is trying to do. But I feel like he's doing okay. He's trying to lock down. He's adding in a lot of the lockdown stuff. Again, just a few more monsters. Maybe consider some better spells and traps. Try to make it as consistent as possible. Even when you're focusing on the lockdown, you still have to consider your other ability with Ojamas, which is to just swarm and overload the field and just bully over your opponent with cards without just the lockdown component. Because the lockdown component is a little more risky, you're focusing on more powerful cards that could get destroyed. Again, Forbidden Lance, things like that you might want to consider, but he has Trap Stun and Wiretap to deal with that, so it's not a really big deal. But still add in things that will make it more consistent, that will give it the other options that Ojamas have. Ojamas can be played in a bunch of different styles, and you're building it around, one kind of style, but you should still leave your options open to do whatever the deck type can do in general, so you can kind of deal with whatever your opponent's doing. But thank you to Sebastian Barragan for the deck submission. If you do have a deck submission for me, currently I'm not really taking submissions because I'm waiting for the new ban list. So when the new ban list comes out, I'll probably ask people for submissions. But for now, I don't really need any submissions. But you guys can work on building your decks, and you can let me know what you're thinking. But also, if you do have any ideas for Sebastian, you could post in the comments. Give him some ideas for what he should put in his deck, because I put in some of my own ideas, but I do love hearing from other people. But that's about it for me today. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.